Dzień dobry. Today is a sad day in Polish history. On April 10th, 2010, a Tupolev Tu-154 aircraft operating Polish Air Force Flight 101 crashed near the Russian city of Smolensk, killing all 96 people on board. The victims included Polish government officials, 18 members of the Polish parliament, senior members of the Polish clergy, the president of the National Bank of Poland, Ryszard Kaczorowski, the former president of Poland in exile, the head of the Polish General Staff, and other high-ranking Polish military officers, as well as the president of Poland and his wife Maria. Not far from Smolensk, the group was traveling from Warsaw, Poland, to attend a memorial service marking the 70th anniversary of the Katyn massacre. The massacre was a series of mass executions of nearly 22,000 Polish military and police officers, border guards, and intelligentsia prisoners of war carried out by the Soviet Union, specifically the NKVD, the Soviet secret police, at Joseph Stalin's order in April and May 1940. The massacre is named after the Katyn forest, where some of the mass graves were initially found by Nazi German forces in 1943, even though the killings also took place in the NKVD prisons in Katyn and Kharkiv and other locations. According to the Polish Penal Code, the massacre qualifies as a war crime, a crime against humanity, and a crime against peace, and also a communist crime. According to a resolution of the Polish Parliament, or Sejm, it bears the hallmarks of a genocide. The order to execute captive members of the Polish officer corps was secretly issued by the Soviet Politburo led by Stalin. The Soviets considered the remaining 8,000 Polish intelligentsia to be intelligence agents and gendarmes, spies, and saboteurs, former landowners, factory owners, and officials. Of the total massacred, approximately 8,000 were officers imprisoned during the Soviet invasion of Poland in 1939, and another 6,000 were police officers. The Polish army officer class was representative of the multi-ethnic Polish state. The murdered included ethnic Poles, Ukrainians, Belarusians, and 700 to 900 Polish Jews. In April 1943, Nazi Germany's government declared that mass graves had been found in the Katyn forest when the Polish government in exile in London requested an investigation by the International Committee of the Red Cross. Stalin broke off diplomatic ties with the country before formally acknowledging and denouncing the NKVD's killings and the Soviet government's subsequent cover-up in 1990. The Soviet Union maintained that the Nazis were responsible for the mass graves and were placed under Soviet control following the Vitsula Oder offensive. An investigation concluded by the Office of the Prosecutors General of the Soviet Union and the Russian Federation confirmed Soviet responsibility for the massacres, but refused to classify this action as a war crime or as an act of mass murder. Since the criminals were already dead and the Russian government refused to recognize the deceased as Great Purge victims, formal posthumous rehabilitation was considered inapplicable, and the investigation was closed. To mend fences with Poland, the Russian State Duma adopted a statement denouncing Stalin and other Soviet leaders for orchestrating the massacre in November 2010. On its register of sites of cultural heritage, the memorial complex at Katyn was declassified by the Russian Ministry of Culture in 2021 from a federal site to one of the only regional significance. Back to Smolensk. The pilots were attempting to land at Smolensk North Airport, a former military airbase, in thick fog with visibility reduced to about 500 meters. The plane came to rest in a wooded area a short distance from the runway after descending well below the typical approach path until it collided with trees, rolled, inverted, and crashed into the ground. Both the Polish and Russian official investigations concluded that the crew did not perform the approach safely under the weather conditions and did not discover any technical issues with the aircraft. The Air Force unit in question was disbanded after the Polish authorities discovered significant flaws in its training and organization. Following pressure from the media and politicians, several senior Polish military personnel resigned. There have been several conspiracy theories that claim the Russians intentionally brought down the plane in a political assassination, that the 2011 investigations were a cover-up, and that the Polish government at the time, which was dominated by the Civic Platform party rather than Lech Kaczynski's Law and Justice Party, was either aware of the plot or complicit in it, or at the very least helped with efforts to hide it. Law and Justice frequently spread these conspiracy theories, especially through Deputy Party Leader Antoni Macierewicz and Party Leader Jarosław Kaczynski, the twin brother of Lech Kaczynski. Macierewicz chaired a new investigation into the tragedy after Law and Justice returned power, and its 2022 conclusion claimed a Russian plot. The new report was later shown to have been the target of tampered evidence, failed to provide any evidence that could definitely refute the 2011 reports, and was withdrawn in December 2023 following the election of a government that did not prioritize law and justice. Now that I'm through talking about Smolensk, let's talk about the Polish president on board the plane, Lech Kaczynski. Born in Warsaw, he starred in a 1962 Polish film, The Two Who Stole the Moon, with his identical twin brother, Jarosław Kaczynski. Kaczynski graduated from Warsaw University with a degree in both administration and law. He received his PhD from Gdańsk University in 1980. He finished his training in labor and employment law in 1990. Later, he became a professor at Cardinal Stefan Wyszyński University in Warsaw and Gdańsk University. Kaczynski was also an activist in the pro-democratic anti-communist workers movement in Poland, the Workers' Defense Committee, as well as the independent trade union movement. He joined the Solidarity Movement and the Inter-Enterprise Strike Committee at the Gdańsk shipyard as an advisor in August 1980. He was imprisoned as an anti-socialist element following the declaration of martial law by the communists in December 1981. Following his release, he joined the underground Solidarity and resumed his involvement in trade union activities. When Solidarity was legalized again in the late 80s, Kaczynski was an active advisor to Lech Walesa and his Solidarity Citizens Committee in 1988. From February to April 1989, he participated in the Polish Roundtable talks along with his brother. Kaczynski was elected as a senator and the movement's vice chairman following Solidarity's triumph in the 1989 Polish legislative election. He was then elected as a non-party member of the Polish Sejm in the 1991 parliament election. When Lech Walesa was elected president of Poland in December 1990, he was also his primary advisor and ally. In 1992, Walesa dismissed Kaczynski from his position as security minister in the presidential chancellery because of a disagreement with Jan Olszewski's administration. Kaczynski and his brother left the Christian National Union and Solidarity Electoral Action to co-found the Law and Justice Party in 2001. Kaczynski was the party's presidential candidate during the 2005 Polish presidential election. In the first round of voting, Kaczynski received 33.1% of the valid votes. He defeated Donald Tusk, who received 45.96% of the vote with 54.4% of the vote in the second round of voting, and on December 23, 2005, he took the presidential oath of office. Following Kazimierz Marcinkiewicz resignation, Kaczynski appointed his brother as Prime Minister of Poland on July 10, 2006. His brother was succeeded as prime minister by his former presidential rival Donald Tusk. When the Smolensk air disaster occurred, Lech Kaczynski was the first Polish president to die in office since the assassination of Gabriel Narutowicz on December 16, 1922. Well, that's all I have for the Smolensk air disaster, and sorry I paused a little because kind of forgot. Those of you who are Polish, never forget Smolensk and Katyn. That's all I have for you this morning. And this is Stephen Luke, and I'll see you next time for a historical update.